Hi, you're watching 20 Questions With. My name's Harry Reid, and thank you so much for watching. Before you do anything, hit the bell, like, subscribe. Thank you so much. Rebecca, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Rebecca or Becky, and there's many different things about my life that are a bit weird, a bit unusual, a bit quirky, a bit interesting, a bit just downright weird.
Let's jump straight into it. First of all, can you start by explaining to the viewers what HSAM is?
HSAM is an acronym for highly superior autobiographical memory, and it's a very rare condition which makes a person unable to forget the vast majority of their life experiences. So I was diagnosed with HSAM in 2013 by the McGaw lab at the University of California, Irvine. And to get diagnosed, I had to do 2 years of thorough tests, brain scans. Even I've had to fly over to California from Brisbane a couple of times. And then after 2 years of thorough testing, I got diagnosed with HSAM in 2013. It used to be called hyperthymesia, but the lab researchers said that hyperthymesia sounded too much like a disease, so they renamed it HSAM. And it was only discovered in 2006 by that same lab. And currently I'm one of about 80. I think the current number is I'm one of 80 people worldwide who have been diagnosed with this condition.
What sort of tests do they run for that to diagnose you?
Oh, there was a wide range of tests, many things which I even thought, is this even related to autobiographical memories? But I had to have brain scans where I was in an MRI machine for an hour.
Oh,
half
wow.
of the time I was awake, and then the other half I was allowed to go to sleep. And they just were finding which I've even been, see, the University of Queensland are also my local university. They're also studying my memory too. So I have tests with them, and I've been in an MRI machine and had electrodes on my head, and I've been answering questions in the machine via, a microphone and that. But it was to see which parts of my brain light up when I remember different things. And when I was getting all the screening tests I had to do for 2 years, and this was done via Skype. So in 2011 and 2012, it was as if I was 10 years forward in time. So, having to do everything via video link. And that was 3 a.m. my time in the middle of winter. So I had to get up 3 a.m. I had no idea. They didn't tell me what I was going to be tested on, so I couldn't practice for them. But I'd just get up in the middle of the night. I'd be nervous because I couldn't prepare for the tests, and the tests would involve which days of the week were certain past dates of my life. I had to explain in detail various dates of my life. I was given all of these pictures and words and lists I had to remember, and then I was quizzed on them a year later to see if and they recorded it too. And on a video, they couldn't see me writing down answers, so I couldn't even cheat on these tests. They were really nerve-wracking. But after 2 years, after I'd completed all of those tests, I got diagnosed with HSAM in May 2013.
So when did you first realize you had this ability?
When I hadn't heard of HSAM until my parents showed me the 60 Minutes clip in late 2010. But I did, as a teenager, I was starting to think that, but I thought it was not normal in a bad way. As a teenager, when I'd socialized more, I did start you know, friends would say, how do you remember that? Why don't you let, and therapists I'd see, they'd say, why don't you just let go of these issues that you keep dwelling on? And I just couldn't for some reason, and we didn't know why until HSAM explained a lot of that.
It's got to be hard to let go of an issue when you can't forget it, right? When you can't forget the intrinsic
Yeah,
details of what happened. How do you
yeah, and that's
process?
the worst thing.
Yeah. How
Yeah,
do you
when
process that?
well, I'm now used to it because it's been my entire lifetime, but it's definitely not easy. And when I can't let go of issues, even though they've been resolved many years ago, I even, because I know that, you know, it's not a normal thing to not be able to let go of these things, it is really embarrassing whenever I'm experiencing, you know, reliving a memory, and I'm just, my emotions are back, either being hurt, angry, at regardless of which age I was at the time. When I, you know, I could have really immature feelings if the memories from when I was younger, but I'm always really embarrassed about whenever I'm just consumed by that and someone asks, why are you so quiet? What's wrong? And I can't easily tell them because it is strange to just, my conscience knows it's strange to just all of a sudden be hit by some childish memory or something from, you know, my earlier years as an adult that's been long resolved now.
Yeah. So how far back can you remember?
I can remember back to when I was a newborn, and there are some memories I have which have had pictures taken of the event which have been dated. And there was one when the earliest memory which has been dated by a photograph was December the 23rd, 1989, when I was 12 days old.
Oh,
But
wow.
I can cast my mind back beyond then because everything's in, you know, in sequence, but of course they cannot be dated because I didn't know about calendars at the time. Clearly as a newborn I didn't know about days, dates or calendars.
So what's that like to be able to, I suppose there's a strange kind of beauty in that though, right? Because we, you know, the, like, not just maybe nostalgia, but to be able to think back and remember what your, you know, your parents were like and how they used to be around. You must be an absolute
Yeah.
nightmare in an argument though, right? Like,
Yeah, I am.
like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember that. Like, are you married?
Yeah. No, I'm not.
No,
Well, at
like,
this stage, no, I'm not. But yeah,
have you ever had
but
to use it in an argument to, like, to, you know,
yeah,
that's absolutely
yeah.
fantastic.
And 9 times out of 10, my people who know me, they find it an interesting part of me, but then at other times they just find it downright annoying.
Do they ever want to test you? You know, like hold up a load of flashcards and be like,
Yeah, many times. And my mum as well, she, whenever she buys an appliance, she keeps the receipt, but she always relies on me. If an appliance in the house breaks, she'll just ask me, when did I buy it? Is it still in warranty?
so you can, like, because obviously I know like how you remember certain things, but you can piece everything together as well. Like, you know, if someone asks for certain things, that makes sense. Like, yeah, like it works to that degree where she's like, oh, the Hoover broke, you know, where did I get that from? And you could be like, oh yeah, it's easy. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, and it was the
fantastic.
kettle most recently. The kettle broke and mum thought she had to buy a new one. And I said to her, but you only bought it 11 months ago. It's got a 12-month warranty. So then she goes, thanks, Becky. Where did I put the receipt? And I said, in your receipt drawer. So she got it out and then went out immediately to replace it for free. And she said, thanks so much. You just saved me.
That's amazing.
You just saved me about $60.
So how, you must have been amazing in school. Like you must have done fairly well to be able to, like, for, the teacher's giving you all the information and you could just be like, yep, got it. You know?
Yeah, at school, I often jokingly say, because I am a slow processor, even though once things are in, they don't, 9 times out of 10, they don't go away. But because I'm such a slow processor, I may have done better in exams if I sat them maybe 3 months later.
Yeah,
But
no.
a subject I really did like at school, and I was so busy studying for, all of the subjects, which I wasn't so good at, but I never had to study my spelling words to get A+ on spelling.
Oh, wow.
I'd always, and that's because I was so busy studying other things which I wasn't so good at. I'd never get time to do my spelling words, but I'd always get top of the class for some reason.
That's fantastic. Can you remember being born?
Being born, I mean, when I go back, see this, I'm going back to my mentality at the time. I think there was a time when I did remember being in a dark place and then a short time later being in a blanket. And that could have been from when I was born, but it could also have been just me in a blanket in general, or I could have been asleep in the dark. I'm not sure, but I'm guessing that's when I was born.
Yeah. Because one of the questions it says you can remember as far back as when you were in the womb, but
yeah, when I cast my mind back as far as, because I was asked by researchers, can you take your mind back as far as you can go, even if you can't date it? Can you? And there was a time I did remember, and it's very cliche. Clearly, I had my head tucked in my legs. I was in a so it's very cliche, but that's as far back as I could go. So researchers are guessing that's when I was in the womb, and so am I, but I could have just been in a blanket too, to be fair on the skeptics.
No,
but that's as far back as I can go.
Yeah. So when you remember these sort of things, is it as, like all of your senses? Do you remember like, what it smelled like, the sounds
Yeah.
around you? You can remember all of that sort of details.
Yeah, and senses are what trigger my flashbacks now. So my memories, I'm very attached to my 5 senses. And even I often say that emotions are another sense as well. So I think there are 6 senses because you have all your physical ones, and I think perceptive and emotion could be another. So smells trigger memories. If I get a whiff of a whiff of perfume or just a whiff of flowers, it triggers flashbacks. And also if I hear a certain word, or and the word may not even seem related to the topic itself, but I could have experienced the scent, sight's a scent, sounds a scent. Yeah, so if I see a leaf a particular angle on the pathway when I'm walking, I get reminded of an experience when another experience when I saw a leaf in a particular position.
Does music have the same effect on you? Because like for me, I rely on music no matter what I do.
Yeah.
So do you?
Yeah, I love listening to music, and I make sure I listen to music which gives me positive flashbacks. And classical music's really good because there's no distracting lyrics. I can just imagine that my feelings are the notes.
Yeah.
And I can put my own words, I can put my own story to it without having to hear lyrics which distract.
do you get the same pleasure of music as anyone else because
Yeah.
you remember everything? So does it still affect you the same way?
Yeah, I love music. It When I listen to music I just feel so happy. But when I hear a song, if I have a neighbor playing, you know, playing a loud song which triggers negative memories, it does the same thing. But in my own house, I can just put music on which I like.
Yeah.
But I find if it's screaming music or metal, I find I start to feel when I hear that. So very much when I hear music, it's almost as if I take on the feelings of that song.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy how the whole thing sort of works. What was it like as a baby before you were able to talk or walk?
So before I could talk or walk, see, talking was something which interested me for longer than walking did. Almost from the very beginning, I realized just instinctively, I guess, that people were communicating by talking, even though I didn't understand what they were saying. And I'd be attempting it myself by just making babbling noises. And then it got to the stage when I could just repeat syllables. But the learning how to talk, I don't think that ends when you're a baby. I think you're always building on your vocabulary. And now I'm learning languages other than English as well. So I think that's something that's ongoing. Now, walking, I wasn't really interested in walking until I reached the typical milestone age when I suddenly just got an interest in using my legs to get around. But talking, I was more interested in from the very beginning than I was in walking.
How are you when it comes to learning another language then? Do you just sort of run with it? Like you can sort of listen to a class and then go, I've got it? Or do you still have to use, you know, repetition and other ways to remember?
I've found when I've been doing my foreign language classes, the teachers do say that I pick the language up very quickly, but I use a lot of the strategies which I used when I was learning my first language, learning how to talk, except I think learning a new language is easier than just learning a first, because when you're learning your first language, you haven't got a previous one to compare, words and sentences to. It's completely, you've got to just, it's more guesswork when you're learning your first language. But I've finished all of my Spanish courses, and that I've now started French, but they've started me, because I've already done Spanish, they've started me now at level 3 instead of level 1 with French. So I've gone straight into intermediate. So I've had to learn a lot. I've only been learning French now for 4 months,
Oh,
but
wow.
I've had to learn very quickly. But I find if I have to do my homework, I do have to study it a lot, but I've found that by studying it, I've half learned the language now.
Yeah.
But
As
pronunciation's the hardest with French.
yeah, see, I know about 4 or 5 French words, so not the best with it. But I think the same with most languages, isn't there? There's
Yeah.
more of it. Like I know Italian. There's like almost, I think it's gendered ways. So you would say like
Yeah, and
il
Spanish and
ragazzo, and
French are like
yeah.
that too.
So it's getting used to both ways of doing things.
Yeah, French is a bit harder. I'm finding French a little bit more challenging than Spanish, because there's more, tonal. You've got to there's more sounds in French which you don't have in English, whereas Spanish is easier to it's easier to make the words.
Yeah.
But yeah, but French is a bit harder, but it is similar enough to Spanish where I am coping with the classes, and I have to do I do have to do a lot of homework just to keep up.
Yeah.
But it's all fun. I've found a new hobby now.
How many languages do you know currently?
Currently, I know 2.5. So I know English, I know Spanish, not to the level which I know English clearly, but I can watch Netflix videos in Spanish now. I've half learned French, but when I was watching the independent film Pinocchio, when I was watching the Italian version, I was able to understand it, not because I've learned Italian, but because it's so similar to Spanish.
Is that Roberto Benigni? That version?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked the new version of Pinocchio that came out last year. It was good.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I have a long list of stuff I've been making my way through. Do you have a goal for like once you've got these languages, is it something you're gonna keep going with?
Yeah, because I want to take my speaking career. The reason I started learning in the first place is because I want to do speeches internationally. So, and do TED Talks internationally. But now, initially I did it for that reason, but now I'm finding it a combination of that as well as fun.
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking about even doing some working as a translator even.
That's amazing. Now, as a child, you memorized every pages of the Harry Potter series so that you could recite the stories without having to look in the books. Can you say a little bit about that?
With Harry Potter, my teacher got me into the books when I was 9. And that teacher, she's still my friend to this day. And she was the one who introduced me to the books. And initially I was skeptical. I didn't think I'd like them because I preferred encyclopedias, but she begged me and begged me and begged me to read it. And I gave in and went, oh, okay. And then I ended up really liking the books. And when I learned to recite them, I've always had problems sleeping at night, and that's because of my HSAM as well, because I'm kept awake with all of these distracting flashbacks. But I found when I'd read Harry Potter, it would distract my mind from those flashbacks. So, but the problem is to read Harry Potter, I had to have my eyes open. So I thought a way I could read the books with my eyes closed is I could just learn to recite them. So I could just pick a chapter, because otherwise, if I just started from the beginning every night, I'd just be going over chapter 1 until I've fallen asleep. So I just learned how to recite each chapter of every book. So I could just think, oh, I feel like a story about Harry's journey on the Hogwarts Express tonight. Or I feel like an experience of flying Buckbeak tonight. So
that's
yeah.
amazing. That's amazing. So when you watch the films, presumably after reading the books, was that a weird experience, having been able to memorize everything that was from the book, so you could sort of watch it and be like, oh, I kind of know maybe what's coming? Or how did you sort of handle that?
See, there's a lot more content in the books than there is in the films, but also in the films, there's a lot more. Each are good for a different reason. The books do have more, but with the films, they make the scenes more emotional and more dramatic. It's better in that way. Like there's thrilling scenes and which I like.
Yeah.
And also as part of my Le Pont homework, because Le Pont's the language school where I'm learning languages in Brisbane, I'm currently reading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire in French. I was given someone gifted me a French edition of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. So because I know all the words of that book, it's helping me with my French, just knowing they're the same words written in French.
That's really cool. Could you could you recite some of the books now for us as an example?
Okay, I'll just pick a random book, say first number that comes to my head, book 4, Goblet of Fire, chapter, let's just say, there's 3 light bulb, 3 ornamental light bulbs in front of me. So I'll say chapter 3 of, chapter 3 of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, the invitation. By the time Harry arrived in the kitchen, the 3 Dursleys were already sitting around the kitchen table. None of them looked up as he entered or sat down. Uncle Vernon's face was hidden behind the Daily Mail, and Aunt Petunia was cutting a grapefruit into quarters, her lips pursed over her horse-like teeth. Dudley was looking furious and sulky, and somehow seemed to be taking up even more space than usual. This was saying something, as he usually took up an entire side of the square table by himself. When Aunt Petunia put a quarter of unsweetened grapefruit on his plate with a tremulous, "There you are, Diddy, darling," Dudley glowered at her. Dudley's life had taken an unpleasant turn since he arrived home from summer with his end-of-year report.
That's awesome. That's really
It's
cool.
relaxing too, because it's nighttime now, and it's just getting me into the, me into that relaxed state.
Now, HSAM in some ways is a gift and a curse, as you remember every negative detail in your life in vivid detail. How do you deal with that?
See, I've never experienced life differently, so to me it feels normal, but I do have to do therapy because it is troubling in many aspects. So I do have to do regular psychotherapy because of it. And my therapists are really pleased at this stage, which I'm feeling good about that. They're pleased with, they've given me some meditations to do each and every morning and night, and that's helping me a lot during my days. And they've given me mindfulness exercises just to ground my mind into the present moment. Yeah, so I mean, I'll always have challenges with it, but my therapists are saying that they're pleased with the progress I've made in the past couple of years. So I'm hoping that, I can just reach and my therapy will be lifelong, because I'll always have to, there's new things I have to learn. But with with my meditations, that's now become a solid part of my life. But I'll always need therapy, because there's always things, once one area's good, I do have to, there is another, then I've got to work on, and then another, and then another. So,
so like a lot of, I think something that's quite common I find for myself and the people I spoke to is when we get into bed, I don't know, when you get into bed and you lay there and you're relaxing, and then your brain sort of goes, "Do you remember that embarrassing thing you did?"
yeah.
So you must get that like amplified, right? To a degree.
Yeah, I do. And it keeps me awake. So I need music. I have to have, and that brings as to the topic of music again, I do need to have music playing as I'm going to sleep, because then I just focus on listening to the music, listening, and classical music, just listening to that and making a happy story with the feelings. And then I'm distracted from that happening. But there are some cases, if I'm say not in my own home, if I'm in a hotel or if I'm at someone else's house and I can't play my music. I mean, now Spotify's really good and that, but if ever there's a time when I can't play music, it's really, I'm up all night. I just can't sleep.
Yeah. We tested one recently with, I found this post online that said a song called Weightless by Marconi Union, and they said it was designed to reduce anxiety by up to 65%.
Yeah.
And they recommend not playing it whilst you're driving, because it's designed to knock you out, basically. And I put
music's very powerful.
Oh, this song, I've listened to a few, but this one in particular, I put it on with my partner, and we were like, we'll just have a listen, we'll just see what it's like. Gone. Just a couple of minutes in, just completely knocked out. But I get what you need, that because if your mind is so loud, you need to shut down sometimes, right? So
definitely,
would you recommend therapy for people that, not necessarily in your situation, but just in general, to sort of process things like that? Would that make sense?
Yeah, see, I know in my own therapy for cases like mine, and even PTSD as well, and general anxiety, even chronic insomnia. See, my sister has chronic insomnia, and I've said to her a really good way of getting to sleep is to just put classical music on and just meditate with with every flow of the song, and you just go into a relaxed state, and different things work for different people. Because they say never do anything involving a computer screen before you go to sleep, but for me it makes me tired. So if I have screen time before going to bed, I find it makes my eyes tired, so I sleep better. But some therapists say don't look at the screen before you go to bed, but it helps me.
Something to do with the blue light, right? They say.
It makes my eyes drowsy, and
I find something similar.
Something full on though. I don't play a game where I have to engage my mind. I'll just read, say, an ebook, or I'll do some Minecraft, just the regular routine stuff, and then it makes me tired very quickly.
How long did it take you to create that masterpiece behind you?
This here behind me, this particular area, took me 3 weeks, but I don't play it all day though, just whenever I've got a free moment, and I use it as a mindfulness exercise. So whenever I'm feeling stressed, I'll just do some Minecraft, whenever I've got the time to, because I do also work and I've got classes during the day. But the more you do it, the quicker you get at it. It's like Lego. It takes a long time to build one building at first, but then the more you do it, you get quicker at it.
You've worked with various researchers to try and work out how the memory works. Can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've done work with the University, the McGaul Lab, the University of California, Irvine, and now I'm also participating in research with the University of Queensland. And in addition to those two, I do have various researchers and psychologists around the world. They do email me for advice and just questions for their research. So that's part of my daily routine, which I'm really happy to do that, because having HSAM, it's much like I look at it much like having a rare blood type, where if you're one of a few people with that type of blood, you do have to, donate more, for people who've got that, got the same as you. So HSAM's very similar. I do feel, it's part of my duty, and everyone else with HSAM, just to help science out. And memory for anyone, see my stepdad's father, he was worried when he was younger that he'd get dementia, and sadly he did get dementia when he was in his 80s. And if they're trying to figure out if the way I can remember things, certain strategies or certain parts of my brain, they're seeing where it's enlarged or where there's more activity. They're doing this to find answers for many other memory conditions, including Alzheimer's. So I'm really happy to do that.
It's good that you are willing to do that. Have you met a lot of other, or not a lot? Have you met other people with the same condition?
Yes, I have. I've met a fair few other people with HSAM online, but I have met in person one of the people I speak to online, Marky Pasternak. She was originally from Wisconsin. Now she lives in Tennessee, but we met each other. We were on the 60 Minutes film together, and we just talked and talked and talked that entire day, on camera and off, because we said to each other it made such a nice change to be able to talk to each other about weird things we experience, and for us just to look at each other as if it's normal, to look at each other and not say either that's weird, or even to say that's amazing, that's so interesting. It was so good just to be able to look at each other as, like it was normal. It made a really nice change.
Yeah. Are there different levels in severity to the condition with other people? Some people remember more, some people remember less?
Yeah, there are. See, everyone who's currently been diagnosed, they do remember things. As far as I know, they do remember things. They can retrieve memories in a way which is just as strong, but different people started, it was stronger from different ages. So some can remember every day since they were 12, or every day since they were 8, or every day since they were a baby. So that varies. That varies a lot.
It's got to be it's crazy trying to process it, because there are so many moments as a child that like for me, like, that I can't forget. I remember being,
and you've lived. Yeah, that's so strange. It's so hard for me to process, to have lived many years and then for it to just have gone, even though you've lived.
Yeah,
that's weird to me.
I have a memory that constantly sticks with me. It's 2000 I want to say 2004, but I remember being woken up by my mum, and she's like, come downstairs, and they had Star Wars on DVD, and it's a moment that stuck with me as, like, like, to the detail of being that's what got me into it, and it's what sort of, like, since then I've been obsessed. So to be able to go back and to have all those memories has got to be, it's just got to be crazy. Like, like
and some of them are just complete rubbish, and often I think to myself,
like,
why did I even
like what?
Just what I'd eaten that day, or it wasn't anything special. Mum just made me. See, Mum was originally from Northern England, so she came to Australia as a child, so she cooks many Northern English meals.
Yeah.
And I had ash for dinner, which ash is just potatoes, mince, and gravy together. And I just think it was nothing special. It wasn't my favorite restaurant, or
Yeah.
I just remember being, fed that one night. But there are other memories I have which are so embarrassing, and they involve another person. And that's when I just think, gosh, I hope I'm the only one who remembers that. I hope they don't. That's so embarrassing.
Yeah. Sometimes the embarrassing memories, though, sometimes they're,
And they just make me even
yeah,
now, whenever they come into my mind, I just shake it off. And I think, gosh, no one else remembers that. It was so embarrassing.
do you, because I look back on embarrassing stories sometimes, and they make me laugh looking back on them, but maybe that's because I don't remember the emotions that are associated at the time.
Yeah.
But do you have the same effect, or because you remember the emotions, you remember everything else, it still affects you the
Yeah.
same? Yeah.
And even certain things weren't as embarrassing when I experienced them as they are now when I'm an adult. When I, have more awareness that was really strange. That was really,
Can
you
you
know,
share one of these embarrassing memories with us?
I know, and I've been diagnosed with OCD as well, but I didn't know I had OCD at the time. But when I was 8, I got I was at school and I got some of my yogurt on my sock.
Yeah.
So I went to the water fountain and was rubbing it off my sock, and I wasn't as embarrassed then, but I do know that the teachers and all the other kids were looking at me, and then a teacher came to me and said, "You're a kid, you're supposed to get dirty." And then a few months later, I got a bit of my yogurt on my shirt. So I was washing my shirt under the fountain, and this teacher, she said, "What are you doing to your shirt there, little girl?" And she goes, "Oh, wait a minute, you're that same little girl who was washing her sock, weren't you?"
Yes. It's strange. It's interesting that you can put those together as well.
But she remembered from a few months ago saying, "Oh, that's right, you're that same little girl, aren't
Yeah.
you?"
Now, you've previously spoken about the difficulty HSAM gives you in forgiving and forgetting, given that every negative interaction is still fresh in your mind. Can you say a little bit about that?
As I'm getting older with more experience, I do accept things more as a memory. So even though I remember past hurts, I have learned, because I don't want to be one of those people who just hold grudges. I really don't. So even though I remember the experience, I do remind myself constantly it was resolved long ago. It's not important. But I know my stepdad, he did say he was talking about it on a radio interview before, and he just remembers how I was when I was a teenager. And I don't think these things now, but where he voiced something I did, and it was, when I'd say, "I hope that person gets punished for stealing my lollipop," when I'd get a memory.
Yeah.
But then I had to come in and say, "I don't think that now. I don't think I want this person punished." I rationalize and just tell myself it's not important. It was resolved. It's fine. So, and I desperately don't want to be someone who just is grudging. And so, yeah,
Do you step in sometimes, like where someone's telling a story and they're going about the
yeah,
details and they're like, "Oh, so it was a Monday," and you're like, "It was a Tuesday." Like afternoon.
all the time
You do that.
with my family and friends all the time. And sometimes I do it, and then I think to myself afterwards, I shouldn't have interrupted. It wasn't really I wasn't a part of the conversation, but it's just a knee-jerk reaction to just do it.
Yeah, especially if it's so clear in your own head, it makes sense just to. I get it.
Yeah.
What other complications does HSAM throw up?
I know it gives you a lot of headaches when you are constantly, it feels as if my mind never sleeps. And even when I'm dreaming at night, whenever I have dreams, they're lucid, and I'm reliving memories while I'm not aware my dreams are lucid, but when I'm in non-REM sleep, I have no recollection of that. But when I'm dreaming, even then, I'm constantly sorting through things. So it's almost literally like my brain never sleeps.
Yeah.
It's always just going and going and going constantly. And it can be very tiring.
Now, you can clearly remember the precise mind state you were in as a child. How does it differ from the common perception of how children think?
Well, as a child, I know I was telling my therapist that, and she used this as an example, when I was a 3-year-old and my little sister, then little sister was a 1-year-old, mum would have her and myself sat on plastic chairs outside eating our lunch. And I thought as a 3-year-old, just not because I wanted my sister to starve, but I just thought it would be clever to show off how I could walk and she couldn't. So I'd grab her lunch, take it to the bushes, toss it in the bushes, and then come back.
Oh.
And then mum knew what I did, and I had no idea how she knew. But I look back now, who else could it have been? Who else could walk? How could a 1-year-old finish their meal in 2 seconds? And of course mum would have been looking through the window, but then she just said, swap plates with your sister. And I never did it again.
And mums have this special ability as well, where I
didn't know how she caught me at the time, but now it's obvious.
Yeah.
Because I thought she couldn't see. But my psychologist said that's a perfect example. As an adult, we would complicate it by saying the child just wanted her little sister to starve. But really, it was just an innocent thought of just being clever, showing how
Yeah.
And because it wasn't my lunch as a 3-year-old, I didn't have the same empathy.
Do you find it isolating to have a condition that's so rare?
Yeah, I do. And I've even written a blog about it. It often does feel quite lonely because there are very few people who have personal experience of it, and even therapists, because it's such a rare condition, they haven't got any exercises which are designed specifically for HSAM. So that makes it very challenging. So whenever I'm in therapy, it seems like the therapist and myself are both learning as much as each other.
Yeah.
So, and also there's very few people I can talk to about HSAM, and they can just understand and go, oh yeah, I do that too. I know why you do that. And
yeah.
But I have many friends and family who I get along with very well who don't have HSAM. And I still have a happy life with them, but with HSAM, I don't know many other people with HSAM who have the exact same. And when someone has the exact same experience as you always feel more,
comfortable,
more familiar.
Yeah. No, I understand. Some believe that HSAM is a result of biology and others that it's derived from behavioral aspects. What's your take on this?
I think my HSAM, and this is what the therapists are guessing as well, it's a combination of things. It is, see, I did have a traumatic emotional event in my early childhood, which I can't discuss for legal reasons.
Yeah.
But that they think caused a lot of that affected, my ability to let go of things, and autism and OCD in combination, I think have caused it. I think HSAM is more, how I personally feel, I think it's more related to OCD than autism though, because with OCD, you can't let go of things as easily. So yeah, and also I do have, sometimes my senses do cross over, and that helps with my memory recall, and also my subconscious. They found when they were testing me that my conscious and subconscious are more strongly connected than usual. So because most of our memories, the long-term ones, get stored in the subconscious, they're thinking that's why I have easier retrieval of them, because my conscious has more, a stronger access to them.
And you're currently writing a book on your life?
Yes, and I finished all of the writing now. It's from birth to my 30th birthday.
Oh, wow.
So I've currently finished all the writing. Now I'm doing the sketches, and I'm doing 2 sketches of what I visually saw from favorite events
Oh, that's
from my
amazing.
life. So I've sent synopsis. I've sent synopsises out and with agents, but I haven't got a publisher yet. So I'm really,
Would you go through the self-publishing route, or would you want it done?
I have considered self-publishing, but when you get it published in a traditional way, you do have more, I do think there are more, things you can do with promoting it. And
Yeah,
so I'm thinking, if I can't get a publisher, I'll self-publish. But ideally, I think I want to.
I think
At this stage, I want. Yeah.
there are great pros and cons to both, but with your story and your brain and the way that you put things together, and
Yeah.
the only issue I would see with a publisher is if they decide to take things out. But the way that
Yeah,
if you're remembering things, like say if I don't know, you got a specific memory with a picture to go, like,
and it has to be very, if it's rewritten, someone has suggested to me when I've approached a publisher about having it ghost written, but it would take away that authenticity because it's what I remember. So it's very it's very much my personal experience. And also the layout of the book is very eccentric because so it's an unusual book, but I firmly say that I want it this way. This is the way I've always wanted it, but it's not a traditional format, for it just to be a chronological book from your personal experiences from birth to 30.
Yeah.
It is it's not a conventional book. So
but and it's got to be the only one of its kind, right?
Yeah, and many publishers want a so I may end up, I'll try getting it published the traditional way, and if not, I'll self-publish.
Can you remember your happiest memory?
Yeah, I've got a fair few happy memories, and just to pick, just like I did with the Harry Potter chapters, just to pick. I mean, when I was introduced to Harry Potter, that was one of my happiest memories, and she was one of my absolute favorite teachers I had. So with her, and when I went on my first overseas trip, which was a school camp to New Zealand, and we got to sleep in maraes, and the stories we were told, it was much like the film Moana, except it was years before the film Moana. But I liked that trip. And when I went to Harry Potter World for the first time as an adult, my trips to Disneyland, they're happy. And my childhood birthdays are happy.
Yeah. So do you get, because obviously, say if you go back to a specific birthday and you remember all the good parts, it sounds really, do you remember sometimes the boring parts and sometimes the little quick arguments that come and go? You have all those memories as well. But when you think
so
about
both happy and sad, so it's 50% happy, 50%, it's they're not all negative. I do relive positive memories too.
Yeah. So like so I often get a little, like, not jealous, but sometimes I think, oh my God, like my favorite film would be Star Wars. I get jealous of people that haven't seen it because they have that opportunity to relive that experience.
You'd love Tomorrowland. See, my younger siblings, they all have autism too and their own special interests. My youngest sibling, Dylan, he has an obsession with Star Wars as much as I do with Harry Potter. And when we last went to Disneyland, he got to make his own lightsaber.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's
cool. At Tomorrowland. And now they've got Galaxy's Edge. So we were planning on seeing that at the end of last year, but that got cancelled. So it's not been cancelled, it's just been postponed.
Yeah. Do you see, when you watch something, like, you remember, like, say you remember the first time that you read Harry Potter or you watched the film, do you still remember those feelings, that excitement, the nervousness? You can recount all of those sort of things?
Yeah. And when I saw Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, I remember they sold Harry Potter candy, which they sell Harry Potter candy now, but the ones they had then they had Bertie Bott's beans you could buy in Woolworths and Coles. Wow. And there was horseradish flavour, which I liked that because I like wasabi. And then I remember they had licorice ones, which you chewed into them, and they had a nice tangy bit in the middle. And they had chocolate frogs with a lenticular card with it.
That's
so
amazing.
They even had that in 2001 and 2002. So,
you could tell how good your memory is if you remember Woolworths as well.
And I just remember I can taste, the licorice ones when I was watching Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, just tasting it, and it had that nice tangy.
Yeah.
Inside.
The horseradish ones, is that that's a sweet, like with horseradish flavouring in?
Yeah, they have jelly bellies now, but with the Bertie Bott's beans, they didn't have any flavours which were, not like the jelly belly ones they have now. But horseradish was the one that most kids I found didn't like, but it was my favourite because I like spicy stuff and I like wasabi. So
that's amazing. Yeah, no,
I like sour and I like spicy. So my brother can do me and my brother can have super sour candy. He can't do super spicy, though I can do the two.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic.
I can't do salty I can't have, and I don't like things that are too sweet.
Yeah. So when it comes to flavors, do you, obviously you said each sense links the next, do you have a memory of your first spice experience where you were like, oh, that's my thing, I like that?
Yeah, when I was 2 years old, my mum had some Tabasco sauce, and she put some Tabasco sauce on her vegetables. And as a 2-year-old, you want to try everything your parents are having. And I'd see her with the glass bottle, and she said, "You're not going to like this. You're not going. It's too hot." And I said, "Mummy, give me some, give me some." And she said, "Okay, I'll give you some, but you're not going to like it." So then I had it, and that's when she found out I could have chili. And now Tabasco sauce is too mild for me now, and all of the sauces you can buy in the shop are too mild, even though they say extra spicy.
Yeah.
So now we make our own. So we get Carolina Reapers and ghost peppers and scorpion chilies, and we just make
Oh, that's
me
amazing.
and my family just make our own.
I do the same thing. I have a homemade sauce downstairs using Carolina Reaper and various other ones.
Shop bought ones just aren't spicy, and even though they say they're extra hot, then
I think that because there's a level where you've got like your shop ball, and then you've got Carolina Reaper, so you have to be. But I love that. I think that's absolutely amazing. You are also a motivational speaker. How did you get into that?
Well, with motivational speaking, I found out I had a liking for public speaking when I was in middle school, and my school were hosting a science and ethics conference at the university. In fact, the same university who was studying, the University of Queensland. And when I was doing speeches, I was doing a lot of the kids who were too scared to do a speech, I ended up jumping in and doing it for them because I just enjoyed it so much, being on stage and speaking to an audience. So that just grew into what my passions are now, and I talk about my personal experiences of autism, but I only do that if it's an autism specific session. But I do talk about childhood memories, what it was like to be certain ages, and also what I've learned in my therapies as well, and not just in regards to my autism, but just how my life's evolved from I was an emotional wreck when I left school.
How comes?
So just
what made you an emotional wreck leaving school?
School itself, I didn't like school. I just, especially high school, my self-esteem just went so low because I just couldn't understand the way things were taught there. It's as if I just wasn't compatible. It's much like having a software game that's just not compatible with a certain computer. It's just it just wasn't for me. And after I left, I had clinical depression, and so I was told by therapists that I'd never be able to have a job. I'd never be able to live a life outside of my mum's care. But I'm determined, and since then I've been determined to just try, for that not to be the case. And now I'm at a stage, I'm working now. At the moment I'm a casual employee, but my goal is to work full time. But where I have a job now with a network, I do also my speaking work, and I do all of that. And I do have, even though I do still live at home with my parents, I am living a life I am still an independent adult. I can't drive because of the medication I'm on due to my anxiety, but I do go out with, a support person, and I do things independent, I do things independently from my parents. I am an independent adult, even though I'm still living at home.
Do you think that HSAM affects your ability to motivational speak? Do you think it helps or hinders?
See, with speaking, I find public speaking much easier than one-on-one speaking, because public speaking, it's more impersonal. So when you do public speaking, you don't really have to direct what you're saying as much. Q&As are different, but it's less personal, whereas one-on-one speaking I find harder than public speaking, because you've got to, when talking's more personal, you do have to talk about each other's feelings more, and I'm not really good at discerning feelings, and
Yeah.
I'm more of an when I talk, and this is due to my autism, when I talk, it is more impersonal.
Yeah. No, I understand. And finally, what do you think the future holds for yourself?
Oh, what does the future hold? Yeah, the future. See, the future used to scare me because it was unknown. But now I think the future, and I'll quote what Dumbledore once said about death being the next great adventure. I now say future's just another adventure. So the future, I think, see, in this past year, I felt so happy because I found where my passions are. I know the direction where I want to take my life. So the future is, I want to continue doing what I'm doing now. I do want to maybe go, I'm now working casually, working full time, and maybe, I don't know, might be good to, meet someone, who I can share my life with. And yeah, that's a goal, which that could be a good idea. And then I could have my own house maybe, but I still want to continue doing what I'm doing now, and I'm happy where I am at the moment.
Right.
My feelings are stable. And this past year, see, many people I know have said it's the worst year of their life, but I've found 2020/21, it's been a really good idea to just step back from the, hustle and bustle of the noisy world, to just step back and have time just to sort through your life and figure out where you want to go. And then once the world's back to normal again, which could be in an X amount of time, no one knows, but I just have more direction, and it's just a good time to just step back now and just reflect on what you already have rather than what you want to achieve.
Absolutely. I cannot wait to read the book personally. I'm super excited about that. So we will have to catch up once that's out.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking
You're
the time
welcome,
to jump
and
on.
thanks so much for inviting me.
It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been a fascinating, absolutely fascinating to get to just hear all this. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for watching. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. King Reardon. All the details are in the description. And when Rebecca's book comes out, please check it out. Thank you so much. Before you do anything, like, subscribe, and if you're going to comment, before you do, just take a second to think before you write, because it's very easy to just to write the first thing that comes to your mind. Just take a second and then jump in. Thank you so much, and I shall see you soon.